It's not really a horror, which means it's going to be the worst thing I've ever read. That's how it works. The math is mathing already. But this not horror made me really uncomfortable. In my IRL D&D group, there's one guy who I really don't like because he's always making intimate jokes. I actually have to be careful when I talk to him because he always says, "That's what she said." Or if I use the F word, he says something like, "Oh, you like boning that?" Or other really lame, intimate puns, but also commenting on my clothes and saying, "You're boneable." Dude. Literally Adam Smasher.
You look like a cut of meat, are you?
Like, that's supposed to be a cartoonishly evil line to establish someone who is cartoonishly evil. Don't say it in real life. He expected me to say thank you, like it's some kind of compliment. I've told him I don't think that's funny, and he should stop, but I guess I wasn't direct enough. I mostly just try to avoid him, but everyone else in the group either likes him or really likes him, but I think that might be because there's only one other girl, so the guys aren't as targeted by him. In our campaign, he just decided he was going to use a mind-reading spell on me just to see how I actually felt about what our objective is, even though we never established that he had mind-reading abilities? Wait, what?
It doesn't matter how much you torture me. I'll never tell you anything. I don't need a beating to make you talk. I'll use my random mind power. Wait, where'd you get these? Well, I mean, how'd you get your random druid powers? Well, multi-classing. But hey, you can't just multi-class in the middle of the campaign to get random mind powers, okay? That's not how it works. Are you sure? Because, like, you know, this guy Withers, I mean, he hooked me up, like, with just this great sorcerer level. You know, it gave me detect thoughts. Did the DM just randomly do this to screw with me? Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, our DM just okayed all that. So he basically forced me to talk about my in-game feelings, even though I wasn't hiding anything or acting suspicious. And I was even playing a pretty outspoken warrior who had a very clear objective: have a great legacy for my kingdom as my ancestors. I was so mad because it felt like it was invasive, and I really didn't have anything to add to the stuff I've already said out loud or explained in our character creation sessions, but now I had to say more because some a-hole who knows he makes me uncomfortable literally wanted to get inside my head. Mind powers can be interesting. Telepathy plays a huge role in my new D&D campaign, but yeah, stuff like this, it's antagonistic, and if people don't want it, it comes off as creepy, especially given this guy's other dialogues. Hi, Crispy. I've been listening to your content for a bit now, and I've always thought, man, the decisions some players make are wild. I'm shocked nothing like that has happened in my games. And then this happened. I'll keep it short and sweet for the sake of brevity. Our party consisted of an Eladrin druid, my character, a hobgob warlock, a tiefling barbarian, and a warforged wizard, also a Goliath sorcerer, and a hag spawn homebrew race bard. Our party had just been shunted through a planar shift portal into the Feywild, 60 feet above the ground. Our dungeon master asks us what we do in a split second before we all start to fall, you know, to prevent ourselves from falling to the forest floor below. To be honest, you don't really need to do anything. I mean, 60 feet, that's what, 66 damage, which is not even a fireball? Like, in real life that could be life-ending, but for an adventurer, it's like, it's kind of whatever, honestly. Anyway, our Warforged Wizard casts Fly on himself and the Goblin Warlock, who grabs and holds on to my character to keep her from falling. Our Tiefling Barbarian has the ability to levitate, and the Hag Spawn has Polymorph. Now, he takes a look through the list of creatures he's able to polymorph himself into. And you may be thinking, oh, he's probably going to turn himself into a bird or a flying insect or something that can fly. That would be smart. Well, that's what we thought too. This man then proceeds to utter a word no one at the table is expecting to hear. A Brontosaurus. A Brontosaurus is a gargantuan-sized class beast that weighs approximately 16 tons. And they can't fly, and this one is falling 60 feet down toward the forest floor at terminal velocity. When this registers in our group's minds, we ask him if he's sure that's what he wants to do, and he says yes. I then have my character attempt to polymorph him into a different creature with the ability to fly, since she hasn't technically taken an action yet. He rolls the wisdom save, and using the stats of Brontosaurus, which is a flat roll, 10 wisdom, he passes! My polymorph fails, and he falls! Bro, why is the extinct dinosaur wiser than my trained sorceress? How's that work? The DM calculates the damage. The damage dice rolled was equivalent to the blast of 134 sticks of dynamite and left a 15-foot crater of devastation where it hit the ground. He took over 1,000 points of damage from the fall due to the weight of the creature he transformed into, and died on impact. I don't think D&D calculates in the weight of a creature when doing fall damage, but it's worth it for the nuclear bomb Brontosaurus, baby. The whole table erupts into laughter. I have tears in my eyes. And the hardest part of the whole thing was having to play my character being absolutely mortified and devastated in the wake of this tragedy, while I'm bawling my eyes out and laughing at the sheer absurdity of what I had just witnessed. Bro looked at Keyleth and the goldfish incident in Critical Role Campaign 1, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life, and decided, nah, I could do better. Actually, the Critical Role cast was in a similar position where one of their best friends just died in a way that was just plainly kind of stupid, but at the same time, it was funny. It was a funny moment, and they just had to reconcile that using Revivify. This is one of those few times where the ease of resurrection in D&D is actually beneficial. But at the end of the day, this person said this wasn't a horror story up front, and I'm happy to see a funnier side to the horror. You know, sometimes the horror isn't something that ruins the game. Sometimes it's just something that makes a character death a little anticlimactic. But hey, in my opinion, it's worth it for the bit. This happened a few years back, and I count it as my worst campaign I've been in. I played Rhine, the Wood Elven Open-Hand Monk. We started at level 3, and each of us got to pick an uncommon magical item. I picked the excellent Winged Boots, which I have banned forevermore. Seriously, I hate flying, but anyway. Seems like a good start, right? Well, the Dungeon Master gave me a warning right from the start that any abuse of the boots would get them taken away from me. I can play nice, so that was fine, but it was downhill from there, though. Our initial introductory adventure involved saving a town from some anomaly in the woods. That was all good, and I was happy to be helping people. No treasure, of course, because that's the nature of the threat, but that was fine. The main arc of the campaign was introduced fairly soon after we reached a large town/small city and fought some cultists. Those black robe menaces attack with blood magic and summon shadow creatures, and never carried so much as pocket change. The most valuable thing on their person or in their hideout were the daggers that they used to cut their hands for the blood magic. This would prove to be a constant disappointment throughout the campaign. 2 tokens in the blue, if you get that reference. You're a real one. Would the D&D equivalent be 2 copper and a dagger? I think that fits. Now we get to the bright spot at level 4, when we cleared out a cave where some monsters had been attacking caravans and had taken their spoils. We picked up a little bit of gold, but made the difficult decision to return the stolen merchandise. I had a couple dozen gold pieces at this point, and that would be the high point of the game. We infiltrated the noble's house, he was aligned with the cultists, and won the fight, but were chased out of town by the guards before we could investigate further or even loot the bodies. We visited 2 other towns and cities and fought more cultists with no money. I used the last of my gold to bribe some town guards as part of our investigation. We're at level 5 at this point. We escaped the exploding city with more cultists, shadow creatures, and no loot, and tried to stay ahead of the rumors that had caused the destruction. We had to fight more shadow creatures that were terrorizing a small town, which turned out to be an illusion? Yeah, the entire town. Like, did you never touch a building?
As you all stare through the desolate streets of this strange town, your characters truly have no idea what is going. The town is obviously an illusion, dude. But how did you know? How do we... Are you serious? Okay, for starters, every time we try to sit in a chair, we fall through it because, you know, it's an illusion. All the people are completely unfazed by us, and whenever we try to attack them, our attacks go through because, guess what? They're all illusions, and not to mention, we walk through every building because it's an illusion. I mean, seriously, how would you expect us not to notice that the whole town is an illusion? I didn't think of that. Yeah, I can tell. I thought I made such a good mystery. It's okay, man. Do we get any loot for solving this mystery? What? You want loot?
There's no loot. There's nothing for you.
Okay. Source subject.
a corrupt dockmaster in a port city tried to have us killed, neither his person nor his desk had so much as a copper piece. I did manage to grab a bottle of booze, but that was lost when we were unceremoniously transported to a desolate mirror dimension the very next session. Yes, it was all connected to the cult, and there was still nothing. Now, it wasn't that there was nothing at all. Our bard was lucky enough to acquire an instrument of the bard's very shortly after she started dating the DM. Yes, when they broke up not long after that, she left the group and took it with her. Not that there was another bard in the party. By the time the game ended at level 8, it had been multiple levels and months, both in-game and out-of-game, since we'd seen so much as a copper piece, and for the entire time our sustenance was the druid's good berries. Dude has the diet of my Minecraft character when I spawn in a taiga biome. That crap's a fate worse than death, okay? If you can't tell, I'm really not vegetarian. My only regret, aside from being in the game at all, was that it all ended before I had the opportunity for Ryan, my character, to dramatically leave the group and find work as a carpenter. And as the cherry on top, the Dungeon Master told me at multiple points when I complained about the lack of gold, you have the winged boots, which I was not allowed to abuse. I use for anything but flavor, roleplaying, and in-combat movement. When the game ended, Ryan was poorer when it began, mundane items included. First and foremost, if flying is a pain for your games, which it isn't mine because I play in a 2D virtual tabletop and just keeping track of it is really hard for me to remember. But anyway, if you don't want flying, it's fine. Just tell your players that. I just tell my players that flying is okay, you just have to hit the ground at the end of your turn. Baldur's Gate rules, basically, and that's it. However, beyond the vague don't abuse them thing that kind of annoys me, the lack of loot is a perfect way to get murder hobos. You have to reward your players in some way. That thing I referenced earlier, 2 tokens in the blue, that's from the looter shooter Destiny, during a dark time where loot was not really incentivized, and the game suffered for it. Now, Dungeons & Dragons is not a looter shooter, but it is still a game where loot is important, and not knowing how to manage loot is a flaw for many Dungeon Masters, including myself. But luckily, I don't think most of us are this bad. So, this was my first time playing Dungeons & Dragons. It happened during the peak of the pandemic in 2020, and I was bored. So I decided to join a D&D Discord server to find a group to play with. I made it clear I was new to the game and did not know a lot of the ins and outs. This is when I found a group with 2 other players and the Dungeon Master. I don't remember names, but I remember that the other 2 players had chosen Monk and Paladin. However, Monk was not the problem here. Paladin and Dungeon Master were. What is with all the problem player Paladins? Seriously, guys, cut it out! Paladins are one of my favorite classes I never play. Come on! Actually, I haven't seen actual play do just a straight up awesome righteous knight in a while. Anyone got any recommendations? The monk was pretty chill and quiet, rarely asserting his opinion, so when I asked for help in my character sheet, the Dungeon Master and Paladin asked me what I wanted to play. Chill so far. I told them I wanted to play a magic class, with access to a lot of spells, both team help and damaging spells. At that time, I only really knew Wizard as a class and thought it was the only spellcasting class available. The DM and Paladin then told me the pros and cons of each spellcasting class, but before I could decide for myself, the Dungeon Master told me to put Sorcerer down in my character sheet. I did just that because I was naive and thought, this is how it was done. I was only around 18 at the time, whereas the DM and the other 2 players were in their mid-20s. So after putting down Sorcerer, I asked what that comes with. The DM told me what to put down for skills, ability modifiers, and everything else without explaining what any of it meant. I think I was also told to put down the Hermit as a background without my DM telling me what that meant either. Of course, I also didn't know what the items given to me were, like the Herbalism kit.
Okay, take these tarot cards. Okay, but... Oh, and this dagger. Okay, this thing makes a little bit more sense. Oh, also, take this machine gun. And... never mind. Seriously, like, it's great that you're just giving me everything I need as a new player, but I don't actually know how to use any of this stuff. Oh, no, this is how all adventurers start, okay? Like, you know, you're inexperienced. You don't really know what you're doing, but it helps you to immerse yourself in your character. Because your character probably also doesn't know what they're doing. So, you know what? I think that this is going to be a really great experience for you. Okay, yeah. I'll learn the game as we play. That sounds like fun. I'm really looking forward to this, you know?
1 hour later.
Oh my god, what is going on? You idiot, what are you doing? Shoot the enemy! I don't know how! You don't know how? What do you mean? You never showed me how! I gave you everything you needed! Yeah, you gave all this stuff to me, but you didn't, like, show me how to use it. Like, I don't even know how many bullets are in this thing. Ugh, kids these days always need hand-holding. We're all gonna die because you're not paying attention and don't know what you... I'm gonna go back to playing Baldur's Gate 3.
So it came time to investigate what spells I could use. This is when Paladin interjects. Paladin tells me instantly to make one of my spells enlarge reduce. His reasoning? Monk had an ability to increase their size. It would be better to help him get even bigger because funny. What followed was DM and Paladin telling me what spells to put on the spell sheet without explaining why and getting irritated if I didn't follow along. So my whole spell sheet ended up being spells that could support the other two players rather than damage focused spells that I wanted. When it came to our first session, I was excited to roleplay for the first time in a game like this, although roleplay was not new to me. Our first session was about 2.5 hours long, and most of it was spent focusing on Paladin's character and Monk. I was introduced as a sorcerer for hire, and the Paladin hired me to help him with a problem. Towards the end of the session, the Paladin brought me to a shack where a magic book was. Apparently, only people with arcane knowledge could read this book. When I asked to investigate the book without actually reading it, the DM said it seems like a normal book without having me roll. When I said I wanted to leave the shack since the book felt weird to my character, the DM told me the door was now locked. Crazy. So I was forced to read the book, and my sorcerer ended up taking half of his health in psychic damage. Turns out, I couldn't read after all. This was not the only time in the session I had my choices taken away from me, forcing me down a singular path. After that session, I still wanted to play. Since I did not see it as a bad experience back then, I just thought that's how D&D was played. So I asked the group chat when session 2 would be. I waited 3 weeks before asking again, no one ever responded. So after waiting a month, I just left. Ironically, the sorcerer I made is still one of my favorite characters. I changed up his spells, his background after learning more, and now he's one of my more prominent NPCs in the campaign I am DMing. Yeah, rough first-time experiences are something that I just hate reading about because it sucks. I want people to have fun with this freaking game. But yeah, handling new players isn't easy. It's not something that just any DM can do. I do think it's a skill you need to practice and you need to cultivate and learn. And I think it's okay for DMs to advertise their games as experienced players only for that exact reason. However, if you do accept new players, you need to be ready for that responsibility. I don't think it's anything insanely difficult, but you do need to be ready to guide someone through the game, to actually explain what the heck is going on. Like the bit where they explain the pros and cons of the classes. That is perfect, but then they immediately flunk it by telling the player what class to play. Recommendations, guidelines, those are cool. Orders, less cool. The cast. The Game Master, Lamsombra, who was just sort of there, Kaitif, who's my wife and one tough lady, and me, a Toreador with daddy issues. If I'm pronouncing these wrong, just keep in mind that when covering Dune, I said Bean Gesserit, so it could be way worse. We'll start easy. It was a slow burn. Lamsombra, Kaitif, and I were craving a game, and knew Game Master had a lot of experience. And we were all friends, so we figured, great, this would work well. We collectively decided to play Vampire the Masquerade V20 as the game. So we get started, and the red flags start early. Lamsombra's character is approved right away, and she's a direct rip in appearance of Yennefer of Vengerberg. No problems here, just pointing out because his issues with my character seemed weird in comparison. Kaitif gets grudgingly approved as she's playing a 15th gen. She was excited thinking this would lead to good plot and conflict, and she got neither. Then there was me. The Game Master nitpicked everything from my character's stat choices to appearance. Mostly, he didn't like that I had put 3 dots into appearance. Not because it was above average, but because he felt that the stat was useless. Dungeon Master was writing the patch notes and decided to ban all hot people. I was planning on relying heavily on presence and discipline, and the appearance stat played heavily into both of those things. And the issues with my character's physical appearance, the ones that he had, were all the things he approved for Lamsombra. I was annoyed, but we came to an agreement eventually. From the out, he made my character a main character. I didn't like this. It was very uncomfortable, and the others weren't getting plot and were treated like side characters. I talked to him about this, and he said he'd change it, but never did. Basically, my Toreador was a missing member of a royal family of Toreadors, a tongue-in-cheek name that they'd embraced. So after being found, he was treated as a prodigal son, and the elders of the family were all vying for his adoption because his sire was the missing due to Gehima? We'll go with that. It would have been fine if this was a subplot or anything else really happened, but swiftly became the main plot. And then he wrote himself into a corner. He literally nuked our city. Was it with a Brontosaurus? Anyway, he then used time magic to reverse the hypothetical Brontosaurus nuke to get out of it. So knowing what was going to happen, the three of us skipped town, fleeing to my character's hometown because, of course, he was the only one with any home nearby. We then find that my character's dad is a werewolf. Now, normally this would mean instant death, but the game master decided no, which was like, okay, cool. So after a rather tearful reunion, our characters laid low for a while. Eventually, we made it back to the city. This is where it went downhill quickly. Kaitif was pushed into a relationship with a werewolf. Impregnated, 15th gen can do that, against her will and my wife's will. And then the father was brutally murdered by Kaitif's sire in a one-on-one duel. How did this 14th gen person take down a werewolf? Oh, well, he's a demon. Okay. Sorry, is this how vampires are all described in Masquerade? Because now I'm thinking of all vampires as some kind of video game console, and I can't stop thinking about it. Get the brand new 14th gen Kaitif hardware from Vampire the Masquerade. The final confrontation with him was boring. Lama Sombra missed that session, lucky her. Game Master decided the entire thing was going to be a cinematic. We didn't get to roll because, to quote the Game Master, he hated dice. We didn't get to use our disciplines, and Kaitif wasn't even allowed to be there because of her condition. So it was a session where we basically listened to the Dungeon Master talk for 4 hours. Afterwards, my Toreador went to visit his girlfriend. She'd also been embraced by his family, and we're going to ignore the ickiness that comes with that. They had a conversation. She got explicit, and the Game Master wanted to roleplay it. I didn't. So he had me roll some dice. I botched. He then described my character essaying his girlfriend while beating her into near torpor. I had to go Eldritch in order to survive that sentence. My god. I was in shock. And to my horror, after it, she thanked him because it was what she wanted, and spent the next few nights refusing to heal the... I'm not even gonna read that. It was disgusting. At this point, I was talking about leaving the... Bro, nah, my planet needs me. I'm out. Kaitif supported me, but Lama Sombra asked me to stay because she didn't want the game to end. She was mostly along for a story. I talked to the Game Master, and this started a new problem. He went ahead and started using me as a co-DM. Kaitif and I thought this would be a good idea. I would have influence over the plot and could maybe head off problems early. Then things got weird. The Game Master started not flirting exactly, but maybe getting a bit too friendly with me. He was constantly messaging me about game stuff and using it as an excuse to drive a wedge between me and Kaitif, which, reminder, is this guy's wife, using everything from our various mental health issues to our recent miscarriage to do so. Oh, that's awful. I was spending more time angry and crying and yelling at him than anything else. But it was only one game a week. Yeah, if I get the crap kicked out of me once a week, I know it's only once a week, but it's still really bad. Still rather not. Lama Sombra and Kaitif seemed to be enjoying themselves, so I kept my mouth shut. But then the Game Master decided we were playing twice a week. Kaitif and I would fall into bed emotionally exhausted after each session, just holding each other. 2 sessions was just too much crap. We tried to talk to him, but he refused to change the schedule. We felt stuck, and leaving was something that felt impossible. Besides, the pandemic had hit us hard, so we were all just desperate for socialization. And then came the photos. I've been editing pictures for the Game Master for some time. He would send them, I'd alter whatever features he needed for the character, and we put it on the Roll20 handouts. So I didn't think anything of it when he asked me to invert some photos. He sent me some inverted photos, and I couldn't tell what they were. Imagine my surprise when he turned the colors to normal, and I was faced with naked women. The Game Master said that she was a friend, and he always wondered what she looked like. Ugh. Where did he get these photos? And more importantly, why are they inverted? I nearly puked and refused to do any more photo work for him. Now, naturally, Kaitif and my character were moving towards a romance. This, for some reason, disgusted him. Considering his meddling in our actual relationship, I'm not surprised. So he instead did everything he could to keep us apart, from offering other partners, forcing marriages through time skips, and various other things. He even rewrote my sire to make her a romance option, and it wasn't even optional, as she would redact herself from the census if I said no, which my character and myself couldn't deal with. It culminated my character and Kaitiv getting into a huge argument. During it, Game Master rolled control rolls for me. I wasn't allowed to roll myself and kept the DC secret. Eventually I botched and he ruled I murdered my wife's character in a frenzy. I later learned that he was secretly making the DC higher and higher until it was just impossible. It was the outcome he wanted. I had enough. I could not take this crap anymore, so the three of us talked and decided we needed to stop. I had a Pathfinder 1st Edition campaign I'd been writing for a few years and wanted to try out. The Game Master was upset, but wanted to play. We figured that without the Game Master powers, he might be able to be dealt with? Be for real! We had session 0, which he skipped, and then got angry that we still did without him. I kept notes, and then had a private one just for him. Then, during character creation, he handed me a backstory that was completely impossible for the world. He was literally rewriting my homebrew world to do what he wanted. I rejected it. Suddenly, he was done. He had to go dark for a while because he was too stressed out. He might come back, and then just stop talking to all of us. We checked in a couple weeks later, concerns, but he would only talk to Lama Sombra. We decided to continue with my game anyway, so I ran the two of them. Over time, we picked up more people, and the game ran to completion in about a year. We've got our core group now. We've been playing for nearly 4 years, just back-to-back games with rotating Game Masters. Game Master eventually reached out to me, wanted to talk to him, and I blocked him. We went to Kaitiv to try to get her to talk to me, and she blocked him too. It's been a lot more peaceful. The games have been a lot more fun since. Thanks for reading, if you took the time. Like I said, this is the abridged version. The full thing is a 6-part saga in my history if you want to dig for it, but I don't blame you if you don't. Yeah, I think I'll pass. Let's go with the abridged. You know what's funny about this? I just finished watching a playthrough of Lust for Darkness and Lust from Beyond, 2 horror games that are actually horrifying because they're gross. They're disgusting and not in a good way. Those 2 games are made by whole teams, and they touch on a lot of the same topics this Game Master did. In fact, some of the dialogue from those games scarily reflect the same sentiments the GM was conveying. Look, horror is great, and horror that disturbs you is really, really great. I also just finished watching a horror movie called Talk to Me that was really disturbing, and I loved every second of it. But that movie touched on topics in a way that was actually mature. I find that mature settings, dark, gritty settings, tend to handle these topics in the most immature ways, and that's where the cringe comes in. Whether it be Lust for Darkness or this GM's Vampire the Masquerade game, that crap just doesn't work. Before we end off the video, you guys have been really enjoying our new look here at Crispy's Tavern in all of its eldritch glory, and that is thanks to Monica from Skyblob. I found her stuff through the Owl House community. Her art is absolutely incredible. Please do go show her some love. She did an amazing, amazing job. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, you might enjoy this previous video about a dude who was very upset he couldn't be homophobic in D&D. That's linked in the cards and at the end. But before you go, please do leave a like on this video. If you want to get notified right as we upload, hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon to know right away when we finish videos here at Crispy's Tavern. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down in the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. We're married. To let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There's an email down in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, and that's like, comment, subscribe, I will see you all next time. Farewell.
Oh my gosh, stabbed myself with a machine gun. How do I even work? Nah, you'll figure it out. Don't worry.